it's New Year's Day, so we're going to do some pork for dinner tonight. We're going to use a pork tenderloin. What we're going to do is we're going to marinate this in a soy and rosemary kind of marinade with a little bit of garlic, and then we're going to make a roasted red pepper sauce to go over it later. But I've got my pork tenderloins. I've trimmed them up, so I'm going to go ahead and put them in the bag. You can do this the day before, or you can do it the morning of, but it's good if it's able to marinate for a few days, or pardon me, not a few days, just a few hours. Kind of help soak up some of that flavor, especially from the rosemary and the soy. The soy will add some salt to it too, so we won't need to add any salt ourselves. So I just got some fresh rosemary. Put that down in my bag here. I got 2 cloves of garlic. I'm just going to kind of give them a coarse chop. Doesn't have to be real fine. Get that guy back over here. He tried to slip away. That's good. I'm going to pour all this down into my bag here. And now I'm going to add probably close to a cup of soy sauce. I really want to get this all the way down in there. I want to get it all over that pork. And it's going to give it a nice flavor, especially with that rosemary that's in there. And I'm going to add just a little bit of olive oil in a second. And that's really just to kind of help keep it sticking. We're going to take this to the grill a little later tonight. That looks pretty good. There's a little over a cup that I put in there. Just a little bit of olive oil. And then we're going to go with some fresh pepper. I'm going to make it kind of coarse. Again, I don't need to add any salt because the salt's already in the sodium, or pardon me, in the soy. I'm having trouble with my words this morning. Alright, got a little bit of that in there. Stuff that rosemary down in there a little bit better. And it'll break up because I'm going to kind of knead this together a little bit after I seal this bag. There we go, working everything in there together. Get that pork kind of all in with that soy and the garlic and the rosemary. Set this in the refrigerator. We're gonna let it marinate for a little bit. When we come back, we're gonna grill this. We're gonna make a roasted red pepper sauce. Hey, Dave from Dave's Killer Kitchen back. Hey, we're gonna make a red pepper sauce for our pork tenderloin that we're gonna do. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna roast a red pepper. If you've never roasted a red pepper, or a yellow pepper works really well. Green doesn't work quite as good, but the red and yellow work really well. It's pretty simple. All we need to do is get our pepper. We're gonna put it in a pan. I'm using a loaf pan. I lined it with aluminum foil just to help keep anything from sticking down there. But we're gonna roast it. I got the oven going at 350. It needs about, this is a bigger pepper, so I'm gonna say this probably needs about 40 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and stick it in there, roast it, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna let it cool, and we're gonna peel the skin off, and we're gonna get the stem and seeds out. I'll show you how to do that when this thing's done. Again, it'll probably take about 40 minutes. What you wanna do is you wanna see this skin kind of blistering and a little bit of black on the outside of the pepper there too, and that way you'll know it's done. We'll be back when this thing's done. 350, smaller pepper might be only 30, 35 minutes. A larger pepper like that's probably 40, maybe even 45. So when that thing's done, I'll show you how to peel it and get it going for whatever you want to do with it. All right, so I just took my pepper out of the oven, and you can see it's got that char I'm looking for, and it shriveled up as soon as I took it out. But this side here, that doesn't quite look, that's not what I'm looking for. You can see how that's not shriveled up a little bit, so I'm gonna put it back in, probably leave this side up a little bit, and we're gonna get that going just a little bit more. It's been 40 minutes, this is a large pepper, so it's gonna take 40, 45, I think probably another 5 minutes will do it. So we're gonna let that go for another 5 minutes, then we're gonna check on it and bring it back out. It's been about 5 more minutes. I'm gonna take our red pepper out. Should be done by now. Yeah, you can see as soon as I took it out, it was a little shiny there, but it's starting to kind of wrinkle up just kind of before our eyes. And that's what you're looking for, is kind of that type of texture. It's a little too hot to handle at the moment. So I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna let it cool down for about 15 minutes. And then what we're gonna do is peel this skin all off of it, and we'll have a roasted red pepper. That's gonna go into our roasted red pepper sauce for our pork tenderloin. All right, so we've let this pepper cool for a little bit. You know, it can cool as long as you really want it to, but you can see that skin's just kind of pulling right up there. This is still a little warm, so I'm gonna be a little careful with it, but just pull that right there. You can see all that juice in there. And I'm doing this in the pan because I wanna retain some of that liquid. That's gonna kind of go into our sauce when we make it. But you can just peel this stuff apart. Let me get it back over here, because one of the things you always want to do too, and there's enough give here. I'm going to pull that top off. I'm going to get a bunch of those seeds with it. And then down in there, I don't know if you can tell or not, but there's a bunch of liquid in there. I want to retain that. So I'm going to kind of let this, you can see the steam coming out. I'm going to cut this in half and peel some of those seeds out of there, and then peel the rest of the pepper here. We'll be back in a few minutes when I get that done. Okay, so I'm letting my pepper cool a little bit more. We're still a little bit hot. So I'm going to get the base going for the sauce though. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with a tablespoon of butter. We're just going to make a roux. And if you've never made a roux before, all it is equal parts of flour and fat. So today I'm using butter. You could use vegetable oil or even olive oil. So 1 tablespoon of butter, 1 tablespoon of flour. Get a whisk and stir all this in. And all this is going to do is help thicken up our sauce. So once I get that butter melted, I'm going to add a cup of beef stock. We're going to slowly add that, and you'll see how it kind of thickens it up. Alright, that butter's pretty much melted. Be melted about the time I get back over here. So I got a cup of my beef stock. I'm going to go ahead and gradually add that. You can actually see when I add that is when this thing thickens up. It gets thicker by adding the liquid, which is always a little odd to me. I'm going to whisk it as I'm doing this. Okay, keeping this over medium heat. Okay, so I got my pepper here. I pulled it out of the pan. I'm just going to get these final seeds out of this. You know, if 1 or 2 are in there, it's not the end of the world. But what I did too is when I got it out, I left that juice in that pan there. So what I'm going to do now is give this kind of a good chop. Kind of get some coarse pieces there, find a few more seeds, and get those out. And I'm going to do 2 things now. I'm going to take that little bit of juice that was in there from the pepper and dump it into my base there to just get a little bit of that flavor. And then I'm going to come back over and I'm going to add that roasted red pepper, hopefully without splashing and spilling too much of it in there. And I'm going to let this just kind of turn that heat up. I kind of want to bring it to a boil again. And what we're going to do is just let the flavor of that roasted red pepper and that beef stock, and then of course the roux, just kind of come together. And what I'll even do is I'm going to try it on. Those pieces were a little big. I kind of want to break this down a little bit, but it'll break down as it cooks too. So I'm going to let this go. The good thing is you can let this just sit. You can even let it sit on low, cover it up, and it will kind of continue to kind of work together there. But that's kind of the base for our red pepper sauce that's going to go over our pork tenderloin. So we're going to let this sit for a little bit. Might even get something to cut some of those pieces into a little smaller, mash them up a little bit. Bring this to a boil, turn it down to low, and then on low it can sit as long as you need to till your meat's ready. I mean, we're probably about an hour away before we're going to be using that, and it's just going to sit here and just kind of blend together. Come back a little bit. So I got our pork here that's been marinating for about 8 or 9 hours now. I got a medium kind of heat going on my grill here. And we're just going to grill these pork tenderloins for about 30 minutes until they're done. Then we're going to bring them in and put them over, pour our red pepper sauce over them. So there's the rosemary that was in there, and I'm going to keep that in. One of the things I learned is that, you know, the flavor from that rosemary, you know, and even when it kind of smokes or gets down in those grill tracks there on the coals, some of that flavor kind of continues to seep in. I'm going to kind of put them off to the side a little bit, get my pork tenderloin in here. And I'm going to save some of this marinade, and as they cook, I'm just going to kind of base some of this marinade about every 10 minutes or so. Those should take about 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer to cook, and then we'll be ready to go. See you in a little bit. All right, we're back. We've taken our pork off of the grill, let it rest for a little bit so that the juice wouldn't all flow out of it when we cut it. There's the pork tenderloin that we marinated in the rosemary and the soy and the garlic. I'm just gonna slice a little bit of this up. The marinade kind of helped keep it nice and moist. We have our red pepper sauce that we're gonna put this with. So let me go ahead and just get a few of these guys on a plate here. And our red pepper sauce is over here. While I was gone, I hit it with an immersion blender, which if you got it, you can use it. And it turned it a lot, more of a red color, almost a tomato soup color. Probably overdid it just a little bit because I still wanted some chunks of pepper in there. But anyway, we're gonna hit that just a little bit with this red pepper sauce. You can still see some chunks of red pepper in there. And then we're gonna kind of plate this up with a few other sides we got going here. We're gonna hit it with some black-eyed peas. You can check out that video if you want this recipe, and I didn't post this video, but this is some collard greens, a little bit different. We didn't wilt these collard greens down, just some red pepper, some red onions, some garlic, red wine vinegar. All we did is blanch these collards to kind of help keep their texture and their color a little bit, and then hit them with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of red wine vinegar, and put it back in the pan. After we blanched them, we put them in ice water to cool them down. But there it is, the pork tenderloin with the red pepper sauce, little black-eyed peas, little collards. Happy New Year.